This panel is on the state of climate change and environment. And let me introduce our esteemed panelists today. Mr. Rajesh Lakhoni, who is Chairman cum Managing Director, Tamil Nadu Generation and Distribution Corporation Limited. He's an alumnus of IIT Delhi, obtained his master's in radar engineering. He was earlier the Principal Secretary to Government, Housing and Urban Development Department, and was Chief Electoral Officer in 2016 Assembly elections in the state. Keeping the future power demand in mind and the need to protect the environment, he's planning to generate more than 7,500 megawatts of hydropower through the setting up of several pumped storage facilities. Dr. Prithviraj Dhar, Chief Executive Officer from Jammu Kashmir Energy Development Agency. Under his leadership, amongst all UTs, the Jakera has achieved highest renewable energy installed capacity, highest small hydropower installed capacity, and highest number of solar streetlights installed during 2021-22. The state is also ahead in achieving highest solar power capacity addition. Mr. Sanjay Kumar Srivastava, Additional Principal Chief Conservator of Forests, Department of Forest Department from Gujarat, an IFS officer from IIT Kanpur. He has worked in conserving forests and wildlife for over a decade. His efforts in the field of mangrove plantation in Khambat have been widely acknowledged, and he was earlier the Mission Director, Gujarat Skill Development Mission. We are joined by Ms. A. Sri Lakshmi, Field Director, Pench Tiger Reserve, Maharashtra Forest Department. She has worked in Sironcha, Gadchiroli, Ahmednagar, and Pune as Deputy Conservator of Forest. She is known to be daring and challenged mafias too. She cleared encroachments, spreading over 750 hectares in Pune city and district, and planted local species. She works extensively on the climate change projects, along with other tiger conservation related works. So ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this discussion on climate change and environment. In fact, just to give a brief backdrop to it, climate change and our threat to the environment, they are both posing a huge challenge to humanity. We are also trying to combat its detrimental effects in our own way by making our individual efforts. Air pollution and environmental sustainability are great concerns. Needless to say that 21 of the world's 30 most polluted cities are in India. We are also experiencing erratic weather patterns, rains post-monsoons as it is going on across the country. In different cities, there are floods, there are rising sea levels, causing environmental damages due to climate change. India is having diversified geography and is mostly impacted by such changes and in its extremes. The temperatures are rising somewhere and somewhere else it is snowing during the time when it is supposed to. So if I may invite Dr. Dhar, who is known to be doing a lot of innovative work. My first question is that what should be done, what can be done to tackle the effects of climate change and environment degradation in the domain where you come from? Dr. Dhar. Dr. Dhar, I'm having the same problem. We are not able to hear you. Kindly log out and log in again. Probably you'll be able to solve this technical glitch. In the meanwhile, I'll move over to invite Ms. Sri Lakshmi.
Thank you once again, sir. And this project, it's very happy that we are part of this initiative. And this project is rightly addressing the climate change process. Like it is like, I know it is a big problem like this. It is like a tip of the iceberg, definitely what we are doing. I'm not saying that we have could achieve a lot in that, but yes, this is the initial step, any baby step that we have taken here as a part of NHCC project funded by NABARD. Here, actually, the project goes like initially by construction of a Totnadu Dam. It is an irrigation project. And in many cases, wherever the different projects are coming up, there is a construction of buildings for the staff and the infrastructure is being in process. So it is some legal buildings and it is part of the Tiger Reserve and many other illegal structures came in over there. So finally, Supreme Court chipped in to evacuate these illegal buildings, and we could remove the encroachments also in this place, apart from the 58 buildings. The biggest thing is like the project is working on two fronts. One is eco-restoration of the degraded land, that is 272 hectares area, as well as some imparting livelihood to the beneficiaries in and around the places. Because some people used to get some livelihood in these colonies, of irrigation colony, and they used to work over there. And once they were dislocated from the place, their livelihood is at question. So addressing the livelihood is also one issue. And most important is this Vidarbha area where we are working. We are having a Goan community, the tribal community, known for the practices of climate resilient activities they do. So within the project also, first thing is the eco restoration we did. So we have removed all the 58 buildings with foundations completely. And not only that, so that area was covered with the good soil, and now it is a place for all the fauna over there. And now, like, we have 40 hectares of meadows, a small plantation, and so much of SNC works which has been taken place. And most of the eco restoration work is already in. And the livelihood works, the 5 villages we have livelihood works, wherein we have going for major activities like poultry, fisheries, and other small initiatives where they can really go up. Apart from that, we have one museum exclusively Goan community lifestyle. We have developed one small interpretation center. See, traditionally we are very eco-friendly, but over the years we just moved on to some new initiatives which resulted in the climate change in a bigger area. So the original lifestyles of these tribals, which is very much climate resilient, and which should be learned for everyone. So this is our benchmark in Pench. And the tourists who is coming, around 50,000 tourists do come to the Pench every year. So they do visit this parks, this interpretation center as well, and they can see the recreated meadows where the earlier, to be fun part, like earlier there used to be bar, something like bars also within the park, because the colony is there. Now it was converted to deep bars rather. So our human bars were converted to deep bars. So such an achievement we had. And thanks to NABARD for funding this. And this is one of its kind in the tiger reserves of the country. And not only that, in future, wherever, see, in many of the areas in national parks and tiger reserves, there is a relocation of villages. So when the villages got relocated, we have certain croplands over there and certain buildings definitely. The croplands can be converted to meadows, and the buildings should be completely removed, because leftover buildings create very huge nonsense for the animals, for the havoc for the animals. So under this project, with the help of many departments, so we have removed these buildings, and the PWD is instrumental in removing the buildings. And on this build, from the dumps what we got, we created one dump, and even we eco-restricted the dump as well, so that even that material was now used for a betterment and as a form of a dump regeneration. And moreover that here we are going for the carbon credit project also, because from the day when we have got in many institutions which are with us, like
That's actually my next question, so I'll come back to you. And in the meanwhile, let me move over to another gentleman, Mr. Srivastava from the Forest Department. The climate change and environment degradation, that's a question for you. Degradation is a major threat to flora, fauna, and wildlife. So you're looking at the forest. So what steps need to be taken to mitigate its impact? Mr. Srivastava.
Thank you, Dr. Dhanjal. I think it's very relevant and very important question. What do we do to mitigate the climate change? I would say, instead of just focusing on mitigation, we should also try to reduce the source of the problem. Let us understand what exactly is the source of the problem. For if we talk about climate change, if we start analyzing very soon, it comes that it is mainly because of increase in carbon concentration or CO2 concentration in the atmosphere. Now, the only thing I would say, if I can say that, the only thing that can reduce it, not only on this planet, probably on the entire universe. I mean, on this, depending on this, based on the science we know, there is only one thing which actually reduces the carbon dioxide from atmosphere, that is a tree. So if we really want to do something meaningful to address the problem, we should reduce the source of the problem, that is production of carbon dioxide. That is one thing, we should reduce the production of carbon dioxide. But second thing, we cannot avoid it altogether. So we need to do something to sequester it. For sequestration, there is only one thing, that is a tree. So all the efforts or most of the efforts regarding climate mitigation should be directed towards growing trees. Another thing that I would like to mention here, it is not just growing tree, it is also using more wood, because there is a general notion that we should not cut trees at all. And it is there is a downside of it. What happens if we don't use wood? We are forced to use plastics, concrete, and steel, aluminum. All these alternatives are more damaging to the atmosphere. They produce more carbon dioxide. So we should not only grow trees, we should also promote sensible use of wood. Obviously, burning of wood is not good. I do not advocate, and no one can advocate that. But using wood in furnitures, household items, wherever possible, is a good strategy. So that should be promoted. Now when I talk about tree cutting, I must qualify it, what exactly I mean by that. Definitely indiscriminate tree cutting cannot be promoted. There are areas which are involutive, so we cannot allow, because they are giving other services, eco services. I mean, they are house to wildlife, lots more megafauna and smaller organism also. So I'm not advocating tree cutting there, but there are a lot of areas, maybe even in forest areas, or even definitely outside forest area. There are a lot of areas where we can promote tree growing, and we can also promote tree cutting over there, and we should facilitate it that by means of making easy rules, both cutting and transport rules. And in our public procurement policy, we should try to promote wood wherever possible. So in my opinion, this is the way we should we try to tackle the source of the climate change problem. Thank you. Yes, Dr. Dhanjal.
Dr. Dara, am I audible, sir?
Yes, now you're audible very much.
Okay, thank you. So
Great.
nice.
Welcome back. So in fact, my question extends to you, which is what I had put in front of your previous speaker, that how to mitigate the risks of climate change, and in fact, the kind of work based on innovation that is being done. What should be done to tackle the effects?
As far as the renewable energy sector is concerned, we all are aware that the energy which we are generating, which we are utilizing at present, is all from the maximum. It is from the fossil fuels, from the coal-based plant. So the mission it was started in 2010 with the Jawaharlal Nehru National Solar Mission. That by 2022, 20,000 megawatt power will be generated from the solar. But once Shri Narendra Modi Sahab took over as Prime Minister of the country, the target was enhanced from 20,000 megawatts to 100 gigawatts, 1 lakh megawatts by solar only, and 60,000 megawatts by wind, and 10,000 megawatts by biomass, and 5,000 megawatts by hydropower projects. So it was targeted as 175 gigawatts instead of 20 gigawatts. And by 2022 March, we have already achieved the target of 168 gigawatts. In wind, we have generated more energy than the 60,000 megawatts it was targeted. Now the target has been fixed to achieve it around 450 gigawatt by 2030. So for that, the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy is promoting different types of schemes across the country. Recently, in the Rural Development Department, one scheme has been launched, with the Gram Urja Swaraj, in which in every panchayat, the villages will be made carbon neutral. There are different ways to make the villages as carbon neutral. One is by plantation, and the main is that we provide them the electricity with the generation of solar power. So in every panchayat, by within 3 to 4 years, more than 450 panchayats will be covered with the solar power. And by 2030, in every panchayat, we will have the solar power projects. So the energy, around 60% energy would be generated from the solar and rest from the other sources. The mission is that by 2047, across the country, we should get energy from the solar 60 to 70%. Basically, with the passage of time, the population increases, demand of the energy increases. But by 2047, by 60 to 70% energy is to be from the renewable sector. And by 2067, it has to touch 100%. All the energy will be from the renewable. So we are moving in that direction. In the UT of J&K also, we are doing many hydropower projects. We are having a power development department who are looking the bigger hydropower projects. Similarly, we are developing some mega scale solar power projects in the Leh area. Presently in Leh area, we are having a problem that is not, we don't have the transmission line to vacate the power from the Leh to the other parts of the country. But you may have seen in Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, many solar power parks are being developed in these states.
Wonderful.
So ultimately, we have to move to renewable energy. So we have to move to solar energy.
So that's a big challenge for Transco and Gencos and the Discom. So we have from Tamil Nadu, Genco and Discom together in Mr. Rajesh Lakhoni. And my question to you is that, should subsidies in this particular context, as Dr. Dhari is talking about, on fossil fuels should be shifted to renewables? Why do batteries matter for India's energy transition? And we've also talked about rooftop solar. Is that a missing link in India's renewable sector, or what else to your mind?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think the questions are very wide. The renewable energy sector is not as simple as it made it out to be, that you can make a village, means in the sense fully solar or something. Now, in the sense, Tamil Nadu, you must be knowing, we are pioneer in wind energy. In 1981, people had not heard of wind energy, and we started windmills and started banking, which is now being talked about. And we are the highest installed capacity in Tamil Nadu. Now, I think the government of India has come out with a very good policy on RPO, that is renewable purchase obligation for each discom. So presently, Tamil Nadu has highest renewable energy generation of 21% in energy terms. In terms of installed capacity, we are 17,000 megawatt. And we are the only discom or generating company which has more renewable installed capacity than the conventional capacity in the country. And we are the size of Sri Lanka. In the sense, if you just want to compare the scales, then I'll come to your answer. We are the size of Singapore. Our grid size is of the Singapore and Malaysia. And we are bigger than Netherlands, Belgium, Finland, and many other European countries. So that is the scale in which we operate in terms of renewable as well as conventional capacity, the state of Tamil Nadu alone. Now, the issue is that shifting our subsidy. Now, solar is a great option, is going to grow by leaps and bounds. But the challenge is the solar is available in the daytime only. And how do we basically manage solar the daytime, and night? Basically, batteries are becoming very expensive. Solar daytime. So solar is very useful when you generate and consume in the same time. If you're generating and storing it, becomes prohibitively expensive. You can store it for 1 or 2 hours, but not for 20 hours. Like morning 8 to 4 is solar is available, but you can't store for 10 hours. So what is the strategies we have to do? So we have to now really, as you pointed out, I think we have to shift the solar consumption on the rooftop so that people at the daytime, at least on the rooftop, they generate and consume. The more important thing which I like to point out is the EV charging. The EV charging, I think our policies have been to promote charging stations in the flats and residential houses, where the people can charge the EV vehicles at night. It should be totally changed, because ultimately solar is going to come in Delhi. So we should incentivize charging at daytime. So actually we should promote charging stations in offices so that people go to the offices, they charge their vehicles, and we should discourage charging at homes is what I'll recommend. That is how we'll have to change in the subsidies regime. Third thing I like to submit is, presently wind farm developments and solar farm developments are being done on an auction route. Now, auction routes are good in terms of discounts. In the sense, a lot of people get the price discover is very low, but it excludes a lot of small operators. So I think we'll have to work out a hybrid model where we discover the price through an auction route and allow small developers to build solar or wind farm, so that the development, we incentivize everyone's participation in wind energy development. That also is another policy change. And lastly, I'll talk about is basically solar is available in daytime, and batteries are very prohibitively expensive if you want 14 hours. So we'll have to do something called pump storages, which at least will give you evening hours power of 6 hours to 8 hours, which will again cut down on coal consumption. So I think the pump storages, but unfortunately, pump storages are available only in forest areas. In the sense, 2 reservoirs are there at different levels. So we'll have to work out strategies so that pump storages can be put up fast. It conventionally take 4 to 5 years to put a pump storage system. So we'll have to work out strategies so that it can be done faster, so that a lot of pump storage system come up in India very fast. And a lot of other small other thing, as we said, we have put in semi-finalists. When we are encouraging renewable energy generation, we should increase the consumer's convenience also, who is generating the renewable energy, whether it's rooftop solar thing or wind energy, and whatever they want to do should be done without human interaction. So it should be totally online. They are acting with their interaction with DISCOM is what I'll suggest, because the time is short, so I'll not prolong on other issues. So these are 2-3 things I'd like to mention here, so that wind and this solar energy or renewable energy grows exponentially in country. Thank you.
I understand the point that you're making. In fact, you come more from the PSU corporate side while making these submissions. That also makes me think of another rising issue, which is the investment. So mostly the Indian banking industry. I mean, I want to ask you this question. It may be out of context here, but it came to my mind. Are they ready for these climate breaking points? Because underestimating the risks to their investors or otherwise into the investments, neglecting the urgency of cutting emissions. So are the banking industry, by way of making further investments, putting their investments at risk, are they aware of that? Because you as a DISCOM or you as a generating company have to go back and tell them, as this is what you need to do, and you have to be aware of it.
In terms of, I think the financial risk, banks are taking, I think renewable is the safest, because once you put it, there's no maintenance cost. It's what is the investment cost is there that you have to recover in 25 years, provided they do due diligence on who is purchasing the renewable. And anyway, energy is going to be used continuously over a period of time. So actually, it's not that we are going to go away from energy and do some other source of sustaining our livelihood activities. So energy is going to be there. So in terms of renewable, I think that investment point of view is safe. In terms of the returns on investment, I think that is, we'll have to do a lot of financial model. What is that expectation of people and what is the expectation of banks to maximize? I think we can't be taking it renewable as a commercial project and maximize the returns on it. We should do it in what is the social cost benefit analysis and do that kind of return analysis on that. And I think it is sustainable in 15 to 20 years. I only have one request or maybe one suggestion is renewable. Basically, the life cycle of a project is around 25 years and it goes beyond 25 years. The bank finances are available only for 10 to 12 years. So it doesn't matches. So it basically puts undue burden on people who have to repay the loan, etc. So I think the tenure of the loan has to be increased, and the banks will have to work on this direction, that for renewable, the tenure of the loan has to be increased. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Dhar?
There are a large number of banks which are financing the renewable energy projects. Presently, if we talk about the hydro sector, if it is developed by the IPPs, they get good returns. But in case of solar sector, the returns are not so good, because the generation in solar energy is comparatively much lower. It is 1/4 than that of the hydro. So once we go for the hydro generation, if it is 1 megawatt, it generates around 60 lakh units per annum. So he gets a revenue of around 2.4 crore per annum. But when we talk about the solar, it is just 15 lakh units per year. So the revenue will be around, and the tariff determined across the country is much lower. It is just 2 rupees something. So these are not viable on these rates. I don't know how the how these IPPs are developing projects on such low rates, but they are not viable on such low rates. Maybe they are getting loans from the international banks and all that, so they are managing in that way. So in the solar sector, the subsidy should be provided so that it will be the viable technology. As on date, it is not otherwise viable. So banking has to play an important role to provide loans at a very low rate of interest. Then only the solar sector could be developed.
Yeah, I take that point. Let me, at this moment, go back to the forest departments. This particularly, I would like to like Ms. Sri Lakshmi to answer.
Before that, can I interact for a second?
Yes, please, go
I
ahead.
have a slightly different opinion on that subsidized way of development of renewable energy. Subsidy has to be there for a small sector like rooftop and other things. But for as far as utility scale is concerned, the scope is to tap the international finances is very high. And I think we don't have to subsidize. We have to facilitate is what I'll use, not subsidize, because subsidy basically then a lot of skewness in system comes up because then who pays for subsidy? Ultimately, some discounts will have to pay for subsidy. So solar rooftop is fine because we'll have to popularize the movement. We'll have to bring the awareness, and people should start owning the generation. So solar rooftop is very good and fine. We should subsidize, but not the utility scale solar. Thank you. Thank you.
Dr. Dhar, would you like to respond to this, or shall I move on?
Yes, sir, you may move on. He's right. Not in the utility scale. It should be in the rooftop sector. In the small sector, subsidy is required. Otherwise, it's not viable. Because in different states, the tariffs are different. When we talk about the Delhi, UP, the tariff is around 8 rupee, or in Maharashtra, it is around 10 rupee. But when we talk about the J&K, Himachal, in J&K, the tariff is just 2 rupee, 3 rupees. So unless we give subsidy on the rooftop sector, so it will not be viable. But in the areas where the tariff is already 10 rupees, 9 rupees, so it is viable without subsidy there. But the large scale power projects, the subsidy is not to be given, but the land is to be provided. For that, the government has to take initiatives how to arrange the land banks, because we require a huge land banks for development of solar sector. Just for a 1 megawatt, we require 30 canals. And when we go for the mega scale power projects, we develop 1,000 megawatt, 2,000 megawatt. So huge land banks are required for that purpose.
Correct. Well, point taken there. So let me move over to Ms. Sri Lakshmi. You know, a softer side of climate change in India, which is the third dimension. That is educating girls. So our forests, you know, historically have had communities living inside. And, you know, while we see that these people are generally dependent on the forest produce, they use forest refuse as fuel and stuff like that. So that also adds to the problem, adds to the you know, carbon emissions, so on and so forth. Educating girls is also an issue. Generally, it is seen that if the women are educated, they take calls on, they take decisions on water, you know, food waste, fuel choices, and how you know, during the winter the house is to be heated, so on and so forth. And that goes to a great extent, you know, contributes to a great extent in preventing climate change. They also do, you know, energy choices, what needs to be done, what not. But given these forest communities where all these awareness and education is lacking, how big is this challenge?
Sir, thanks, a very nice question. And you know, initially the forest-based communities living in and around forest is their life. So for everything they are dependent on forest. And of course, definitely their way of living is definitely not that harmful that compared to ours. So whatever they're using for their livelihood, what for their minimum domestic work, that is okay. It's not in a commercial way. But what happens, you know, they immediate pressure of climate change is again on them, because for someone to have power and sitting somewhere in AC room like us, but some they were displaced from the location for some project, right? So they are displaced. But definitely over the years, they also know the facts. So initial thing is like estimation of ecosystem services, and you know, polluter pay principle only will work. And this market of carbon trading will definitely help. At least in paint, we are going with a carbon product, carbon credit project, where the because they are not using the forest for their own benefits. Maybe they're not letting the fire happens, and they're destroying the ecosystem over there. So those benefits can be evaluated in the form of carbon and then can be given to the villages. That project we are already taken up. And coming to the educating the women and creating of awareness, yes, it is the very good thing. And in Maharashtra, we have a specific scheme called Shama Prasad Janvan Yojana, wherein we are giving them alternative fuel goods. Like, we are replacing we are giving them LPG, and we are giving some, improved chulas, and we are providing some livelihood to the women. Definitely. And again, important thing is like we should go for the skill development, what we are having in sessions in the morning. So this is also very important because in at least in villages in Nirano Pange, around 1,200 boys and girls were given voluntary education and they were settled elsewhere and they're earning decent earnings. So they are, they're stopping their families not to enter the forest again. So such kind of benefits we have to give to the villages. And while doing so, it's not only women, we should take care of all the age groups whosoever were in the village, like, for the children, for the young lads and the girls, as well as women and some old people also. So if you have this holistic approach, this is a good work which can be done. And in Maharashtra, we have this eco development committees in and around the tiger reserves, where 25 lakhs of rupees is given from the forest department. And rest of the all development schemes can be converged and being implemented in those villages. So this is one option, but definitely yes, it's more. I feel its burden is more on urban areas than the rural areas. So we should try to adopt a rural way of life, which once at least our grandparents used to have that. So it is more educating. I feel we need to require to educate more the masses of the communities who are in the cities rather than the villages, because they already have the sustainable way of life. By and large, their livelihood requirements is also very less. So, and we try to curb more on them basically than in the urban areas. So it is the reverse way. I beg your pardon to differ, but it is what I feel as a
No, that's
person.
all right.
Yeah.
This is an alternate opinion, and which is what
Yes,
we are looking at.
yes, yes.
I, at any given point in time, not looking at anyone to agree with whatever I say.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
want you to disagree and submit your
yes. And one more thing is like
so that there
more
are
of
takeaways from the panel.
yes, more again the green technology should be, more research towards green technology should be in place. And it's not only solar which can work really. Everything has got its plus and minuses, but more and more lab to land things and more green technology should be in place, so that this is a problem that everyone is facing in. And it's for all. It's not only for one person or something. It's for whole community. What we are having like.
Right.
So, and provided that in as a forest department, many see we are anti-developmental and all, but we feel that 20% of area on the geographical area and the forest is doing something for the climate change. Definitely is only one source, as sir already told. The only carbon sink is forest, so we feel proud to be working in this department. Thank you. Thanks.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. So the same question goes over for another opinion to Mr. Srivastava, Sanjay Kumar Srivastava. So it looks like, he's not there. So we have had a cross section of opinion on a very wide subject of climate change and environment. And I'm very glad that, we have agreed to disagree and we have presented our different experiences from the domains where we come from. And I thank each and every one of you for having contributed immensely to this discussion, although I would have loved if there was more time with us. And my heartfelt thanks once again to everyone for being with us.